to the Psychotic Break. I'm Kimmy.
And I'm Maddie, and this episode is a part 2 of our social media series. I don't
And
know if we'll, I don't know if we should call it a series. It's just part 2.
we have we have another series. Is it the social media one?
No, we have a few series. The other one is kind of like the dream and sleep series, and then
Mhm.
we have the introversion extroversion
There it
series.
is.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're just starting another little mini series.
Yeah. Well, specifically, we are going to be focusing on social media addiction. And Kimmy and I did a little experiment for you guys. So, Kimmy, you want to walk us through the very simple experiment that we did?
Well, little preface, this episode is basically just attacking every teenager. Not gonna lie. So prepare for that, but our little experiment began when Maddie texted me, "Hey, want to go off social media for a week?" And I said, "I can try, but I don't know how well I'll do." And so the experiment was going off of social media for a week, but specifically Instagram.
Instagram is the form of social media that me and Kimmy use most often. I will plug in there that I also took myself off of Facebook and Snapchat and even LinkedIn. So, I just wanted to not be in contact with anyone. And the reason I asked Kimmy that is because mental health has kind of had its ups and downs lately. And I found that social media has not been helping at all. So I wanted nothing to do with it for a week. And we'll get into how the experience was. But in a nutshell, it's been pretty positive for me.
I want to say positive. Don't get me wrong. I do believe it benefited me. However, I was in Disneyland, and if anyone knows, the lines are extremely long, and I had nothing to do. And so I would open it up, I would go scroll for one photo, realize I was not supposed to be touching this, and I had to just turn off my cellular data in order to stop opening it up and getting the false hope that I get to just play around.
Yeah, I didn't quite take that into account that you would be in Disneyland and you would need to keep yourself busy. So I commend you for trying it anyway. I feel really guilty about that. But I hope you were able to experience Disneyland more because of it.
I did. I also played a lot of games on my phone though.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Games are can be addicting, but I don't think it's as bad as social media can be.
For sure. Really depends on the game, but you said it was positive. How was that?
It was really nice. Well, let me tell you about what it was like before I wanted to hop
Oh,
off of social
yeah.
media. I was I've been kind of upset with my social media account, my Instagram account, just the way it looks. I have deleted photos in the past. I have had certain filters, and I would do this stupid thing where I have 3 horizontal photos and then 3 vertical photos, and it looked really put together,
Yeah.
but for one reason or another, I would delete a photo and then it would throw off the entire look of it. And now I'm just not really happy with how my social media looks. And bonus, I am unhappy about the fact that I'm unhappy about it because I'm just like, why do I care? This is my social media. I can present myself however I want,
Mhm.
but it's the mere fact that society teaches you you have to put a certain foot forward when you're presenting yourself. And if it's not something beautiful and special and something that'll make you seem popular and like you're having a good time, if it doesn't fit all of those cues, then it's just looked down upon.
Yeah.
And it's very toxic. I was just feeling the toxic back end of it, especially since I don't have the most followers. I've
Mhm.
actually had a lot of people unfollow me because I
Oh.
post about this podcast so much. And if they're not interested, they're like, okay, bye, which hurts, especially since I care about this podcast so much. So I just needed a break. And I don't even know if I will come back to social media because
Oh.
it's just been very toxic, and I don't like the person I become when I care about my image. And yeah, I just kind of want to be done with that part of my life.
So, quick question.
Hmm.
As you said that when you post, you're posting for yourself. It's your account. And when you posted in the past, this is going to be worded so poorly. When you posted in the past, in that moment, you obviously wanted to post this picture because it meant something to you. Or in the back of your mind, did you still have that intention that this was a specific image that would also appeal to the people, the followers?
The first three-fourths of my photos are just for clout. It just makes me look good. I mean, my first photo is, I don't even remember which one it is. I think it's of me in Yosemite, and I legitimately did want to post about my trip, but the image that I posted, okay, well, the very first image that I posted is just me in Yosemite looking really small. Uh,
Okay.
it's hard to explain, but I just wanted to show that I'm naturey and that I'm
Um,
quirky. And I think the second photo of me on my Instagram is also me in Yosemite, but I'm hugging a tree. And I think my caption is literally, "You didn't get the memo that us Californians are tree huggers."
oh,
So cringy. I'm still a little proud of myself for coming up with that, but I really was doing that for an audience.
yeah.
And social media should be a way to connect with people, yes, but it should also be a way for you to document your life, and that means the good and the bad. So if you're just posting all of the good, then you're unbalanced and you're leaving a lot of room for error and a lot of having to hide yourself from the world.
I relate to that very strongly. As I talked about in the first one, because I have so many of those fears of presenting myself and also my intense need to be super private at the same time, I have multiple accounts. So I can present myself the way I actually want to and disclose the photos that don't seem too appealing to the likes, you know? And that's also the issue of why my account has not been posted on in almost 2 years. And sometimes I repeat the captions and just put part two because I get too flustered to think about what to post. But then in the back of my mind, I know I'm supposed to post like prom and stuff, but I don't actually care. That's why I stopped really using my main account and I have all these three separate tiny accounts in order to disclose everything else.
Right. It sounds like we're both toggling between feeling the need to post these things because that's what everyone else does and
Yeah.
that's what everyone, it's kind of the unsaid, this is what you do.
Mhm.
And then there's the other part of us who just doesn't want to post that stuff. We shouldn't feel the need to accommodate to other people and make them happy.
But we understand the actual purpose of Instagram, which is a digital yearbook essentially. And we've lost that purpose, which is really upsetting because I do really like to post. I do enjoy having this chronological thing of my entire life from whenever I started in sophomore year for my private account, but no one else will see that.
Right. Yeah. Social media, I guess we should just start talking about why it's addicting because you're right, it does make us feel good. And whether it's for the right or the wrong reasons, there's a lot to social media that people don't think about, and they don't realize that it's triggering some actual hormones and actual biological responses.
Yeah.
So Let's go ahead and define social media addiction.
Oh man. I hate to put the term addiction there because obviously I understand and I can acknowledge that addiction does exist, and especially with social media. But when I think of addiction, I'm thinking of something super harmful to the whole body, usually from drugs and stuff or gambling. And to put this thing that only entered society a few years ago is wild and awful.
It is. And I want to quickly acknowledge the fact that social media addiction is not usually characterized or categorized in the same boat as
Yeah.
drug addiction. And we could distinguish them by saying that you have substance abuse and substance addiction.
Yeah.
So, drugs, alcohol, arguably caffeine. Oh, we should have an episode about that. But you have the substance, the clear thing that causes you to be addicted and to have negative effects because of it. But there's also behavioral addiction, which is like gambling. It's a behavior that you do that is not healthy for you.
Yeah.
So, social media is a behavior addiction because posting and looking through our social media and checking it constantly, those are behaviors.
Yeah.
And there's no substance for us to consume other than the fact that it is something that controls our behaviors.
So, what is the proper definition then?
I would say that social media addiction is characterized by the compulsive and excessive use of social media. And I'll go ahead and plug our resource for this episode, which is the Addiction Center. They talk about social media addiction specifically, and they have a few characteristics that they connect with social media addiction. Do you
Yeah.
want to read us those characteristics?
Okay. So, the first one is modification, well, mood modification, which would be the when you're on social media, it can alter your state and you subconsciously probably don't even realize it. And I have a thought on that, but I will wait a minute. Then there is salience, which I've never really heard that word, but I am currently looking at it. Um, it is okay. I understand it now. So it is the preoccupation or the excessive use or worry over social media and use of it. There's also tolerance, which is commonly heard with, like, again, drugs and stuff, where you're increasing your time every time you use it and becoming your body's becoming comfortable with it. Your eyes don't burn as much anymore. You're not aware that you're bored, but you keep continuing to scroll. There is also the withdrawal, also seen with drugs. This one I kind of argue against. I've never felt withdrawal, but it's the same where you don't feel good anymore once you stop using or you're away from your phone even, and that's a whole separate probably addiction of the technology realm. And then the final two are conflict and relapse, where you have your own internal struggle of wanting to use social media and to go and interact on it all over again. And then you try to stop, obviously, which hence the relapse, and you revert right back into the old habits.
Yeah, that's a doozy.
Yes.
There's a lot of really important and deep concepts there. And I would say the easiest way to go about this is to talk about our experiences specifically,
Hmm.
specific, our experience specific to our being off of social media for a week and see if we are actually addicted. Do we meet these criteria?
Do
I
we have
can go
to say
first.
all of them?
I would say, we'll just go in order. I would say Mood modification, yes. Social media makes me happy sometimes, and social media makes me sad as fuck sometimes. It hurts seeing people I care about doing really well. It feels good to see them doing well, but then it starts to make me think, am I doing well? Am I doing enough? Am I. And it just forces me to compare myself to other people.
Yeah,
So that's a very bad mood modification thing going on.
for sure.
Salience, I've actually never used that word until today. What's salience again?
Um, the the definition they give is preoccupation with social media. So like the excessive back of the mind thought of social media. Do I need to go on it? Have I been on it in a while?
Yes, I can check that one off. I think about social media when I'm not using it, and what's really bad is I'll be experiencing something. I'll be hanging out with someone or I'll get some really great food and I'll think, "Oh, I got to post this."
Oh,
Instead of actually enjoying it first.
yeah.
And then tolerance and withdrawal. I think it's interesting that you disagree with withdrawal
Mhm.
primarily because I definitely experienced withdrawal when I was off of social media for a
Mhm.
week. I just kept wanting to go back on, and I was just in a bad mood because I was thinking about wanting to go back, but I was also feeling kind of sad that I wasn't catching up with all of the latest to date what everyone's doing.
Mhm.
So I would characterize that as withdrawal.
Okay, okay.
And conflict, the fact that I am sad about being sad, about being on social media, that's conflict right there. I don't have to explain that one. And relapse, yes, I wasn't perfect. I checked social media a couple times this
Yeah.
week. I'm guilty of that. And what's really scary is half the time I didn't even realize I was doing it. My mind will just wander and I'll be on my phone and then all of a sudden I'm looking at Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's not good. So all of these characteristics, yes, I am addicted to social media.
Oh man. I'm scared to evaluate myself because I know for a fact I'm gonna try to sway myself away, but I know the answer, and that's what bothers me.
And that is denial, baby. Classic characteristic of addiction.
It's not on this one, and so I'm gonna get out of that one somehow.
I'm gonna add it to our outline.
Okay. Mood modification. Confidently, I do get jealous of others, but also currently, I'm not jealous of people. I'm upset with people for going out during COVID. And yes, I'm a hypocrite for going to Disneyland. I acknowledge that. But I'm not going to freaking Hawaii and messing with the native population. Just saying. No offense to people. I get that you've been locked up. Salience, I don't think I have this back of the mind thought. I am unintentionally open it, but I've never I have not checked this in a while. And part of that is because I did a social media study in my first year of college, which really reprimanded me. And ever since then, I've been trying to remove myself because them quite literally making me send my, what are those times, not
Timestamps.
kind like the accumulation of time that you spend during the day.
Screen time.
Yes, the screen time. They made me send that weekly, and that called me out. That openly ended my reign of addiction to some degree. Um, Tolerance, yeah, definitely with TikTok. I can scroll for a very long time. Withdrawal, not really. I once was off for a month, and I was pretty content with my life. Um, Conflict, so, but I'm not thinking about it too hard to think if I have ever had an internal struggle with it. Relapse confidently. I'm back on. I lasted a week. I did my thing, and I am right back on that grind.
Mm-hmm. I want to address one of the things you talked about, which was the beat with not being withdrawal. You said that you were off of it for a month at some point and it felt
Yeah.
great. At any point did you experience withdrawal? Maybe the first few days, maybe the first week, because I've actually been off of my phone for more than a month. In the Catholic religion, we have Lent and we give up something for 40 days, a lot of us. And one Lent season, I gave up my phone for 40 days and it was really nice at the end, but I would say I experienced withdrawal within the first few days.
You gave up your whole phone or just the
Whole phone, locked it away for 40 days.
I have questions, but I will not digress right now because most of them are how did you communicate with people to get places, you know? But that's like a whole separate thing. Um I whenever I do remove myself from social media, I will definitely think, "Oh, it's not there anymore." But because I completely delete the app usually, it's hard to crave something you don't see, which is why I have less of withdrawal. And if I've decided to take a leave of social media, it's usually because I'm maybe in a bad place or it has caused my bad place. And I know that I shouldn't want to touch it. And so completely separating has reduced that withdrawal need.
That's interesting. That says a lot about your ability to have self control. Would you say that you're the type of person that has good self control?
Depends on the thing. I bite my nails, so obviously not with that, but I I would like to think so. I like if we were doing the marshmallow test, I would hold out for
Mm.
sure.
Hmm.
So maybe above average just a bit.
Okay. That definitely falls in line with the fact that you're able to not experience those withdrawal symptoms. Let me ask this: where do you think most adolescents and teenagers are when it comes to their ability to have self control? And are they subject to experience a lot of withdrawal?
Well, let me hit you back with how many of them are cognizant about their addiction to social media?
Probably very few.
Then the very, very few that are probably are yearning to touch and tap a story. But other than that, the ones that aren't, they for sure could not last. My friend got off of social media for a bit, and that was only because of like a big problem, but within a month or less, she just made multiple accounts on the side that were super, super private, but she never completely went away, even though there was like an indirect legal battle going on. She still couldn't keep away from social media, which it says a lot to me at least.
Yeah. And we should talk a little bit about the interesting idea that we came up talking about this of, is social media being used as a coping mechanism for a lot of these kids and adolescents?
What are your thoughts first?
I would say yes. Social media, in most cases, is used as a coping mechanism. Arguably, any type of addiction is first a coping mechanism.
Mhm.
If I don't want to generalize to all people because it really does depend on your circumstance, but I would say more than not, someone who is more likely to be addicted to drugs, alcohol, even social media is going through something negative
Mm,
in their life and they just want to feel good and they will do whatever they can, and taking an external substance or an external behavior to
mm,
make yourself feel better is easier than trying to do the work to unpack and work through it
yeah.
or find help to work through it. So, coping mechanism, yes. I would say that I have someone in mind, someone in high school, won't name names, but this person had trouble with her weight. I think she looked beautiful, but
Yeah.
you never know what's going on inside someone's brain. She thought that she was bigger than she was, and she would always post photos of herself on social media to get likes or even criticism. And she would do that because she was projecting. This was quite literally a defense mechanism, a coping mechanism. She was putting herself out there because she needed to be liked.
Yeah.
She connected this secondary reinforcement, which I'll define in a second. And she thought, if I post a picture of myself on social media and
Hmm.
it gets likes, that'll tell me that I am skinny.
Yeah.
And that's a really unfortunate way of looking at it, because what if she doesn't get the amount of likes that she wants? Then that's just going to reinforce her negative feelings about her body.
Yeah, that definitely was not what I was thinking about, but you're completely right. Which is, first of all, that is very upsetting to hear. Oh, there's a lot of feelings towards that, but
Sending her love wherever she is.
for which is there, it's it's weird what we decide is something that would validate our feelings or not feelings towards ourselves. Where if I thought I was fat one day, I don't know if I would take to social media as the form to like get that validation I need. And I probably would find other ways, but it's it's weird. It's because there's so many other factors into it, because as someone that uses social media, if someone were posting like a lot of photos all the time, and that's what I'm picturing for this person, I would probably not like them because I'm confused, or I'm not, I hate to say annoyed, but I'm gonna go with, I just, it feels almost attention like. And that's an awful thought, but that's another, like, it's a thing that you don't think about with likes, where I'm fixated on likes, but I forget to think, as someone who also scrolls, and you do both posting and scrolling, they're two different realms. I don't like pictures sometimes for the randomest things. And we forget about that until it's actually us in the hot seat waiting for those comments and likes.
Right. It makes sense that this person and many others like her would do this, because if you're taking social media, if you're taking social media as it is really good at being a secondary reinforcer, which I will define it by explaining what a primary reinforcer is. Primary reinforcer is food, shelter, water, arguably sex for some people,
The necessities, yes.
necessities for life and for, I guess, continuation of life, but we won't get there. We're not a biology podcast. The point is,
Oh my god.
the point is, a secondary reinforcer is something that is learned, and money is a perfect example. If I give money to a baby, they're not going to care. They might tear it up. They might eat it. It's nothing to them until you associate it with the value that it holds. Social media is just like that. Social media by itself doesn't do anything, but when you start to attach meaning to it, when you start to think about all of the people who are involved in social media, you kind of tumble into depending on likes, comments, followers. So, for someone who is going through a tough time in their life, they, whether they can label it or not, they know that getting a lot of likes on a picture or a lot of comments that are saying you're beautiful, it feels good. It's
Yeah.
stimulating dopamine. It's stimulating the same receptors in your brain as the primary reinforcers: food, water, sex.
Now, we discussed this earlier, but as you said, it could bring dopamine, but we've said so many negative things that it almost counteracts the idea that likes can bring you happiness, because they can, but then you begin to compare. Because my average is probably 150. It's not a lot, it's not a little, but if I got 160, I'd probably be over the moon. But then give it a minute and I'll for sure start thinking about other people who have the exact amount of followers that I do. And I'm wondering why they got more likes if we have the same amount of followers. And it's a reinforcer for sure for something that is so personable. You Not everyone is addicted to this. Not everyone fixates on the likes and the comments, because there are people that are on social media to not use it for that manner.
I wish I were them.
That's my sister's boyfriend. He's off of it now, but for a while, it was truly just for him to post once in a blue moon for whatever made him happy. Sometimes he just post a picture of something stupid. And it made no sense. It got no likes, especially because for that, you can tell, like, in that case, when you look at his feed, people are obviously liking certain things. When he'd post something stupid like a piece of bread, he would get like six. But then the moment that there's individuals in the photo, him and my sister, he would get at least 20. And that just proves everyone is liking, because yet again it's a personable thing. You're liking what you think is your preference, what you think is
Right.
appealing. It's a very subjective thing, which is really upsetting because it's also so toxic.
It really is. And you have to look at it in a very particular way. You can look at it from many different angles. I think it's kind of nice that it's so personable in a sense, because that just goes to show that we have our free will and are unique people who like
Yeah.
certain things. But we'd like to think at the end of the day that my unique picture, that a picture of me is going to be liked by a multitude of people.
Yeah. So you're
When it's
essentially
not, you
cultivating it.
start to
Yeah.
worry. When it's not liked by a lot of people, you start to worry that there's something wrong with you. If you're in that mindset, which I definitely was before hopping off of social media, and I honestly won't go back on until I have the confidence to know that a few less likes won't knock me down.
And for that, because I've never experienced that personally, because I don't post, it's hard to fixate on likes and comments if you just never post. But how will you know that you're ready? Is that just something that you'll feel? Or would you do a test run of posting a picture, getting likes, and ideally you don't fixate over it?
I just imagine myself doing that, posting a few pictures and not getting enough likes and thinking, "Oh, nope, still hurt.
Delete
Time to
them?
get off here."
Okay.
No, I don't know if it's that black and white. I suppose I'll still check without thinking about it. I'll mindlessly be on Instagram, and if I'm feeling guilty about being on it, I'm probably not ready.
Hmm.
Sometimes I wish I wouldn't give social media so much power, so like put it on such a high pedestal, but it's hard sometimes, especially if I'm an individual who's going through stuff right now. It's I'm more vulnerable, and a lot
Hmm.
of people who use social media are vulnerable at some point in their
Yeah.
life, and some of them can't make that step to take a step back. So, let's use that as a segue to talk about some ways to step back from social media.
Okay. Well, I said mine when we first talked about this with Maddie. When I first talked about this with Maddie a few days ago, when talking about how addicted I felt with my phone, constantly opening it, Maddie told me her coping mechanism to get off of it. And I want to start with that because I think it's the funniest thing.
I like to bring books with me to everywhere. I keep a book with me at all times. And Kimmy made fun of me for this, but if I'm ever in the grocery store and there's a line, I'll just pull out my book. And I didn't realize that was weird until you pointed it out to me, but most people will go on their phone. So
Yeah.
seeing me just reading in a grocery store line, I guess could look weird to some people, but it works for me.
It's definitely I think it's weird because I could read a book off of my phone and wait in line, and that looks normal to me because it's a tiny object we all carry around daily. I, however, do not just casually carry a bag or just a book or a bag in a book that offers me so many solutions to take my time.
I mean, it's not like these books are huge. I mean, this is probably the average size book, and I can hold it in one hand and carry my groceries. It's
It's
not that bad.
a hardcover. If it were like a paperback, that totally makes sense to me because usually people that have paperbacks and are carrying around casually, they fold it back and they're doing that really book bindy, bendy thing, and I'm not into that. But to bring a hardcover book everywhere you go is a lot more challenging.
I guess. Here's why I do it though. I like the idea of going, okay, let me say this. I don't like just going on my phone mindlessly and going through social media that can risk me feeling bad about
Yeah.
something, and I'm just exposing myself to a lot of stimuli and a bunch of new pictures and learning what everyone's doing. But I can count on being in the same realm if I'm just reading a book. I'm literally continuing a story that I am interested in, and I'm
Yeah.
back in the zone. I'm reading Wild by Cheryl Strayed, and I'm excited to be reading about it because
Yeah.
I get to follow her on this journey while I'm going through my daily life.
So you're almost excited to be standing in a line that gives you the time to read.
Yes.
That is way more wholesome once like hearing it out completely. Hearing that off the bat for sure was something that just went, what the hell? But other ways that are easier to do than casually bringing a book everywhere would be the easiest ones are usually limit the time use on the screen time in the settings that's on Apple, I think. I have that for Instagram. I have it down to an hour, which is actually a lot. At first I went over the time limit, but now I'm usually under because some part of me does fear getting yelled at by the little time thing screaming you've been over. But other ways are just turning off notifications. I don't have notifications on. I that also means I don't respond fast, but I don't have this inkling to open it. What are other ways?
Well, those first are really great ways, not just the book thing, but limiting your time. That's really important. And when you do limit your time on social media will be that much more special.
Yeah, you really get to do not a general, a genuine scroll as compared to waiting for something new to pop up. You'll have a completely fresh feed by the time you finally open it up.
Right. And I'll add this little tidbit that I think is nice. I once met someone who told me that he is very particular about his Instagram. He told me that he does not follow someone on Instagram unless he would be comfortable going out to lunch with that person.
My lord. What? I I believe in the cultivating, don't get me wrong, but that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a very high level criteria. And what's sad is he doesn't follow me on Instagram anymore,
Oh,
so I guess he doesn't want to get lunch. But I do see the point, and the point is follow people who you're genuinely interested in seeing how they're doing in life.
yeah.
Seeing someone, I know a handful of people who I just want to know they're happy and healthy and having the greatest time in their life. There is a population that I'm following that, for whatever reason, they're not a very big part of my life, and
Yeah.
I don't think they care about me, so I maybe don't care about them as much. And I'm too afraid to unfollow them because then I'm going to dwindle in likes. So I'm not the person to be giving advice right now. I'm still doing my own thing trying to figure out social media, but that's Another way is to just really customize your social media. If this really is going to be a forum for you to express yourself, might as well pick the audience that you are showing yourself off to. If you genuinely want this to be close friends and family, then go for it. If you feel the need to have an entire, like, thousands of people seeing what you're doing, and if you really feel the need to get those likes, question your values.
Yeah.
And you could also come up with a new hobby, whether it's reading or embroidery, if you're a nerd like me, or painting or going on hikes, getting yourself out there. There's so many ways that you can live life and experience something without having to look at a screen.
That's for sure. I do get in lines though, but those are the moments where you can just do the digital book thing instead of doing the mindless scroll.
Or you can take that time to meditate or just notice things around you. Next time I go to a grocery store, I'm going to leave the book at home and I'm just going to maybe have a conversation with someone.
Ooh,
Maybe look at the scenery around me. Maybe read the nutrition label that we never read.
that is actually way more wholesome. And I would suggest that for in supermarkets because people can tell when you're just genuinely nice, especially when you're waiting with your cashier and you're able to make that connection that isn't the very basic small talk.
Right. Well, we are way over time, but I think we had a really nice discussion about this and we ended in a nice spot.
Yeah.
Social media addiction is an addiction, it's a bad thing. But there are ways that you can reduce it. And let's go ahead and do our 1 minute wrap up. And hopefully, we can wrap it up just as nicely as we've ended.
And hopefully Maddie will get it.
I am claiming heads.
Okay.
Actually, I feel like you should flip the coin. Maybe I'm just
I don't
rigged.
have a coin on me, but I'm also scared to let you do this.
Well, I'm going to flip it. Come on, heads, baby.
Maddie, so help me God.
It's tails.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna carry around a coin in the back of my phone.
I can't believe this. I haven't gotten one of these in so long.
I want to go back and check the last time you've had one,
I
purely
think
out
it
of
was the Friends
curiosity.
episode.
True, but on that one, I was praying to, like, I was manifesting that you got that one. I'm not gonna lie. But before that, I was still getting it a lot.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. Everyone ready now?
Yes. Hit
Okay.
us with it.
Today we talked about our experiment in the social media addiction realm and what social media addiction is, which is the excessive use of social media that, similar to depression, it's disrupting your life and making you very upset. And so some of those characteristics or identifiers that you may have social addiction, media addiction, would be mood modification, preoccupation with it, tolerance slash withdrawal, conflict, relapse, and personally denial. And within that, we discussed that it's really bad for you overall. The main focus was that it's a secondary reinforcer, meaning we chose indirectly to have this become a very prominent thing in our life and really impact it. And that there are ways to reduce it, which could just be deleting the freaking app or turning it off, limiting other things, or be like Maddie and bring a book everywhere. Okay.
I like it. I like it a lot. Good job, Kimmy.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode on social media addiction. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you're angry at us because you don't want to acknowledge that maybe you do have social media addiction. Feel free to come after us. We want to make this an open discussion.
I did preface in advance so people really cannot take full offense.
That is true. These are facts. Well, what's also a fact is you guys should follow us on Instagram at
The Psychotic Break dot pod.
Hopefully by now we are on YouTube and you can see our faces. Most likely, yes. And make sure to check out our website, which will be in the description below. Keep an eye out for our posters. Like, comment.
Share, even?
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Yay!
Bye.
Bye.